guys. We are reading Emily Windsnap and the Ship of Lost Souls by Liz Kessler. And we are on chapter 2. So here we go. Chapter 2. September passed quickly, and it wasn't long before I was packing a bag and getting ready to join my classmates for the mapathon. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, I can't even spell it. I can't even talk. Mamathoth journey. I'm just gonna say it's like that. It was Saturday morning, and a bus was picking us up at noon to take us on a 5-hour drive up the coast, followed by a 4-hour crossing on a boat over to Five Bay Island. With any luck, we'd be there before nightfall. I swished my last bit and pieces into my bag and pulled the zipper shut. You've packed all your geography books and your binoculars for the birds, haven't you? Mom asked. Yes. And the charts I gave you so you can recognize and record all the fish? Dad added. Yep. Mom held her arms out. I'm going to miss you, sweet pea, she said as I hugged her. As I hugged her. Dad leaned on the trapdoor and reached up to kiss me on my cheek. Me too, little I wasn't sure if they should really still be calling me things like Sweet Pea or Little now that I'd turned 13, but since I was leaving them for a week, and since every other time I'd left them recently, my life had been in danger from either a kraken, an evil iceman, or an ancient curse. I decided to let them off the hook. Clenching my bag, I stepped off the boat and made my way along the wooden jetty that led up to the pier. Hey, Emily, a voice called from ahead of me. It was Mandy. I waved at her. Wait for me. As we made our way up to the pier, I could see the group of children waiting. There were only 12 of us on the trip. Not everyone had chosen to come. And about the same number again would come from the shipwreck. Plus, there'd been a teacher from each school. A flicker of excitement went through me. We'd had another letter last week telling us what to expect. It was from someone named Lowena Waters, which I'd thought was a joke name at first. I mean, she's in charge of an island and she's named Waters. I'd be like a math teacher like Miss Mapplication, but it had turned out to be real. Loana's letter said that she and her husband, Lyle, looked after the island. No one really lived there apart from them. It was one of those places that were kept free from humans' interference, so they could protect all the varieties of animals and birds that lived there. Their job was to keep it that way and to educate people about all things that they protected. Lowena said that she would organize games and trips and we'd have loads of fun, as well as learn more about geography that you could ever learn in a classroom. She'd written to Shipwreck School too. Shauna showed me her letter that included information about shipwreck tours, sightseeing trips, and underwater places that hardly anyone has ever seen before. Both letters said how proud they would to be hosting the first ever joint trip between a human school and a mer school. I couldn't wait to get there. Okay, 8th graders, listen carefully, Miss Plitt, our geography teacher called over the din as the boat drew towards Five Bay Island. We had been traveling all day and were pretty tired, but the sounds of anchors grinding against metal and engines changing gear as we docked in the harbor was enough to reawaken our excitement. From the front deck of the boat, I started stared into the twilight of the early evening to try to catch a first glimpse of the island. When we arrive, we will be greeted by Mr. and Miss Waters. Please be on your best behavior. They have worked extremely hard to provide an exciting week for you. And you promised us the wonderful welcome, so we can ensure that we all show them the utmost respect at all times. We all dutifully did the yes, Miss Platt, whatever it is, thing as we jostled for the best spot of the front of the boat. I really wanted to dive off the boat and swim up to the shore, but I had the feeling that might not fit in with the best behavior promise. So I stood and waited for everyone else. Eventually, the boat engines died and gangplank at the front came up, and we were herded into the semi-darkness of the Phi Bay Harbor, which might be a bit of a grand thing to call something that seemed to consist of jetty. Sorry, guys. Jetty, only just large enough to fit our boat alongside it. A scrapey beach covered in stones and stranded seaweed, and a couple of rowboats tied up on big round buoys at the other side of the beach. Was this supposed to be one of the wonderful 5 bays? Right, now then, Miss Plate mumbled as she pulled a folder out of her bag and started ruffling through papers. Miss Water said she would be here to meet us. We all peered into the gloom. There was no one around and no sign that anyone had been around any time recently. Either just us, the beach, and the soft waves lapping gently over the rocky bay. I wandered down to the water edge. The stone jingled as each wave came in, hissed as each one retreated. Over on the other side of the bay, Miss Plint was walking this way and that, waving her arms around and checking her phone for a signal. What do you think is going on? Aaron was by my side. No idea. Maybe they've forgotten us. We stood in silence for a moment, mesmerized by the rhythm and the tune of the waves. Mandy came over to join us. Miss Plint is talking to someone now. I think they're on their way. A few minutes later, a shadow came across the beach. As the shadow got closer, I could see it was a tall man, quiet, gangly, with wavy hair that flopped around all over his head as he hurried towards us. His shirt was half hanging out of his pants, and his face was covered in dark stubble. Nice to see he's made an effort for us, Mandy mumbled. The man headed over to Miss Plitt. I'm so sorry to keep you, Miss Plitt, Miss Plant said, hold out an arm to shake his hand. No harm done, you're here now. Yes, of course, the man said. He turned to go back the beach and indicated for us to follow. Well, I'm Lyle. My wife is, look, sorry we kept you. Anyways, come on then. I'll take you to your cabin. Putting it politely, the man seemed completely clueless. He didn't tell us anything about the week ahead or ask us if we'd have a good journey or, well, anything. He didn't talk, he just walked and we followed, shuffling along the sand with our bags and up the slope at the top that took us onto a path through the small woods. For a few minutes among the trees, it was virtually pitch black. Careful in here. It's very dark, Miss Plaints called back, pointing out the obvious. Keep an eye on the person in front of you and stay close together. Aaron grabbed my hand. Any excuse, I joked. Not that I minded. The path through the woods led to a dirt trail with a couple of houses, one on the left of the trail and one further up on the right. This is the island's main road, Lyle said, and that's your cabin, he added, pointing to the house on our left. When we got to the door, he rummaged in the pocket for a key to let us in. You've eaten? He asked. Yes, thank you, Miss Plano replied. Oh, we had dinner on the boat. Good. After fumbling around on the wall for the light switch, Kyle gestured down the coordinator. Bathrooms are down there. Kitchen is all the way to the end of the round of the corner. Living room is the room after that, he said hurriedly. Bedrooms are all upstairs. Boys in the room on the left, girls on the right. The teacher room is at the end. Make yourself at home. Any questions? We stared at him. Was that it? That was our wonderful welcome? Miss Plant shook herself. What time would you like to meet us in the morning? Meet you, Kyle replied. He was already halfway out of the door. Yes, for our... Hold on a second, Miss Plant rummaged through her bag and pulled out a sheet of paper. Island intros, official orientation, she said, passing the paper to Lyle. For a split second, his face softened into the slight smile. Luena and her funny titles, always with the alliteration, he said, almost to himself. He passed the sheet of paper back to Miss Plant. Look, I'm sorry you haven't had quite the welcome you were expecting, he said. Things have been a bit, well, look, we'll sort it all out in the morning, okay? I'll come over at 9 and we'll get together in the living room and take it from there. Is that all right? Well, I suppose so, Miss Plant replied tightly. It'll have to be, wouldn't it? Mandy whispered in my ear. All right, then. Have a good night, Lyle said, and with that he left us standing in the coordinator and closed the door behind him. Miss Plant took a second to get herself together before regaining her normal teacherly tone. All right, children, let's get settled. Take your things up to the bedrooms, and we'll meet in the living room for hot chocolate in 10 minutes. How does that sound? It sounded great. Only trouble was, it didn't work out to be quite so good. For one thing, the beds were all unmade, and we had to spend 15 minutes searching all the rooms and cupboards for sheets and blankets. Half an hour later, when we made the beds, we were more than ready for a cup of cocoa with warm milk, but there was no cocoa or milk. Miss Plant sighed as she pulled a loosened strand of her hair back into a ponytail. I think we should call it a night, she said. I'm sure everything will feel much better after a good night's sleep. Set your alarms, children, at 8:30. I want to see you all down here for breakfast. Breakfast? With no milk? I'm sure they'll have figured something out for us by then, she added quickly. We headed for our rooms and said good night. Sweet dreams, Aaron whispered as we parted company in the coordinator. I wanted to give him a kiss, but I made do with a quick smile and a night. Sweet dreams. Back to him. 5 minutes later, I was in bed and fast asleep. It had been a long day. Lyle seemed to have gotten his act together a bit the next morning. He was there at 9, like he said. He'd even managed to find some milk and bread for us. No butter, but we had jam and peanut butter, and even half a box of frosted flakes to share. He talked while we finished off our breakfast. I hope you all had a good night's sleep, he began. First of all, may I apologize again for rather disorganized welcome last night. It's not how we normally like to welcome our visitors. The thing is, he paused and looked away from us. Then he shook his head. You see, my wife organizes these trips, and unfortunately she's had to go away. Luana not here? Miss Plant broke in. No. She says she's really sorry, but she's organized the whole thing. Lyle frowned. Yes, I know. She said that she would personally supervise us, show us around, give us games to play, bring the two classes together. Miss Plant started rummaging in her bag again. Look, there's no need for that. Lyle waved her paperwork away as if it were a wasp. I know this isn't quite what you expected, but it will have to do. I'm sorry. It was unavoidable. Unavoidable. His eyes looked dark as he spoke, and his voice had turned a shade sharper. What was going on here? What had happened to Lewina? Miss Plant put the papers back in her bag and sat up straighter. All right, then, she said tightly. What will my children be doing today? Lewina said there would be a guided tour of the island this morning, followed by the treasure hunt this afternoon. Yes, that's fine. I'll sort it all out, Lyle said. With prizes? Miss Plant added firmly. Don't worry, I'll find some prizes. Miss Planted pulled her ponytail a little tighter. All right, she concluded. That will be fine. I finished a mouthful of toast and put my hand up. Yes, Emily. Do we know when Shiprock will get here? I asked Miss Sharktail. Wouldn't let them miss their Saturday classes, so they were coming today. Shauna had said that they'd be getting marine transportation of most of the way and swimming the last part. I wanted to go and meet them when they arrived. I believe they'll be here late afternoon or early evening, Lyle replied. After I left you last night, I went home and dug out most of the paperwork relating to your week. Hopefully the rest of it will be smooth as a freshly washed pebble. He tried to smile. The edge of his mouth went up to a tiny smidgen. He looked quite nice when he smiled. Nice, but not happy. The smile definitely didn't get anywhere near his eyes. Will you be able to give us our island intros and official orientation as promised? Miss Planet asked him. Lyle nodded. Yes, of course. All right then. Children, go and get ready and meet me back here in 15 minutes. Let's get these field trips started, okay? As I brushed my teeth, dragged a comb through my hair, grabbed my shoes and coat, and hurried back downstairs, I couldn't help wonder what was in store for us here. If the rest of the island was as mysterious and odd as Lyle, one thing was for sure. There was no way this was going to be your usual boring, as bitterless bread geography field trip. And that is the end of chapter 2, guys. I will see you guys in chapter 3.